Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 2, and this is going to be my review for Episode 1, the premiere for this season, otherwise entitled What Lies Beneath, and by the end of this video, by the end of this episode, might I say, I was wondering myself, what lies beneath? What lies beneath Smallville and the mines in particular? But yeah, well, I sort of gave a bit of a spoiler away, but of course, spoiler if you don't watch the episode. Why would you be watching this video if you hadn't watched the episode? So go do that if you haven't. But of course, if you've watched the episode, let me know in the comment section down below what your general thoughts, opinions, reactions, everything, especially to the hook and the cliffhanger right at the end, because I wonder if we're going to see any of that play out next episode, or if that's just something that will be building up over these opening episodes before a big reveal later on. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions down there in the comments. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you enjoyed this episode, why not drop a like on the video to show support? So of course it's a premiere, so let's recap the end of recap the end of last season quickly. So we had Tauro or Morgan Edge defeated. Just defeated, he's still alive, and I think we're going to see him again at some point in this season. Don't know when, but I think we will. Just a bit of a guess out there. But we also had Natalie, or John Henry Irons' daughter, who is also the daughter of Lois's doppelganger from John's Earth. She arrives, but yep, she's also the daughter. Well, Natalie is the daughter that Lois never had. So there's just some inbuilt tension there that, well, as you'd expect, is going to play out in this episode, and maybe stuff going on forward as well. But just as a whole, this episode felt almost like at least most of it almost felt like a Superman and Lois, like 1.5 episode, like something between seasons 1 and 2, because it's straight up dealing with the fallout from the end of last season, with all the emotional and mental gymnastics it has thrown at some of our characters, while also setting up the foundation of this season as you would expect. But I was just thrown for a loop because we had that time jump. It does pick up straight where we left off for like one scene, and then we have a time jump. So I wasn't too sure if we would be dealing with the fallout still once we had that time jump, but there has just been this ignoring, or like people just sort of been blocking out what happened before having to deal with it. So that just makes it even worse when you finally have to approach it, just because stuff's been simmering and everything like that. But in regards to this episode, we pick up right where we left off at the end of season 1, as I said before, with John Henry reuniting with his daughter Natalie, but Natalie thinking she's also reuniting with her mother because Lois is there. There's obvious confusion, not just for Natalie, but just for everyone as a whole. Like, what the hell's going on here? Now, Clark does advise Lois at this point to say something to Natalie, but it's not as easy as that. Like, Lois ignores it, and I can sort of understand why Lois does that. And she has this opening up moment later in the episode, which we'll jump to. But what do you say? Like, what do you say at the moment? Oh, hi, Natalie. Seeing a ghost? Like how do you address that? So that was just an awkward situation to begin with, and I wouldn't have wanted to be in Lois's shoes at that point. But as I did say, we did have that 3-month time jump. I think in the trailers and stuff like that for this season, they'd mentioned like that it was like school time, or like that there was that 3 months, or like it's been 3 months. I think that had been mentioned a couple of times in the trailers by different people. And you can just immediately sense there is tension in the air between Clark and Lois. God knows what's happened over these 3 months between them, and other, little tiffs and arguments and everything like that. But we learned that Lois still hasn't had that chat to Natalie, even though it's been 3 months. Though it also seems that there's been like a blockage coming from Natalie's end as well. So it just seems that none of them, or neither of those two, really want to address the situation. But a lot's been happening over this 3 months, as Smallville itself has become like a tourist town of sorts after Superman saved it at the end of last season. But I must say, and I wonder if anyone else is thinking, I do wonder if any of that merch is up for sale. I mean, those Tyler Hoechlin Superman bobbleheads, I mean, I'd put one on the front of my car. But it's not all smooth sailing outside of the Kent farm, because there is drama at the Smallville Gazette, as help is desperately needed to get it running properly. Obviously, Lois sold their place in Metropolis in order to fund the Smallville Gazette and take some ownership. But yeah, nothing's really happening with it, even though it's been 3 months, after all that happened. But Lois is sort of being very stubborn about who they employ. And it's just like sort of further puts on like what's going on following the cliffhanger with Natalie at the end of last season. It's just impacting much more than what's going on at the Kent farm. It's just sort of spreading out through every aspect of Lois's life, and also affecting everyone that's involved with those different aspects. But speaking of things moving and spreading, Jordan, and this isn't like a pandemic sort of reference, but Jordan has moved on from Tegan. that we saw last season, who obviously her dad was like a villain or something, or like a criminal or something. But he has a new girlfriend, Candace. I don't know if this Tegan character is just gone from the show. She's not in this episode. I don't know if the actress was busy and couldn't do season 2 and like that smaller role she had. Maybe she had a better opportunity. But anyway, Jordan has a new girlfriend called Candace. Candy's nuts. Anyway, why Candace? I'm just going to open up the jokes. Anyway, but there's also just new issues with him in the field of football. He's just not getting a go, not getting a run, and it's obviously frustrating him. But Clark has to leave those two in order to save a North Korean submarine in trouble. So when it was all happening, I don't know if it flashed up on screen whether it said they were in North Korea, but I was wondering, I was like, what military is this? Then I finally saw the North Korean flag when he lifted the submarine out, and I thought, oh, I'm sure that's going to go down well. But as he goes there to save it, he starts to have these head pains when he arrives, resulting in him passing out. And this is going to be a trend I think we see at least for a few episodes. I'm not too sure how long it's going to go. I guess when you get to the root of it, you can potentially stop it happening. But yeah, there's some issues going on. But in typical Superman fashion, he is able to come to in order to, bring that submarine up and surface it before it implodes from all the pressure of the deep ocean. And that's when you can see like the North Korean flag and everything like that. Now, Natalie is trying to live a normal life, or at least John Henry is trying to push her towards that, as we do have Natalie heading off to her first day of school. Now, it's not the same school that Jordan and Jonathan go to. That's obviously Smallville. She's going to like Metropolis High, which is where I think, was it where John Henry was sort of like camped out at the end at last season? I think he went there at certain points. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, she's going to a different school, and you can just tell straight away that the past 3 months between John and Natalie definitely has not been the easiest. Getting used to this new earth and pretty much living a fake life of sorts, or like a manufactured life of sorts. Like, it's not real. With Natalie actually not even going to class after she sees a doppelganger of one of her best friends who just doesn't notice it at all, just sees through her, just goes, okay, you're just some random person. You're the new girl. I don't care about you. So this leads Natalie to state that she would have rather have died on her Earth than be alive on this one, just because she just doesn't belong here. She's just like this artificial life, if you want to call it, on this Earth. Now, obviously, things get better for Natalie as we move on, and I'm assuming that she's going to move on from that school. I don't know if she's going to stay there. That's for us to wait and find out, I guess, in episode 2 and beyond. But I think things are going to get better for Natalie as we move on throughout the season. Hopefully, fingers crossed, because she's in a terrible position at the moment. Now, we do get to meet Lieutenant Mitch Anderson, who's the new character, or the new like main sort of character this season. We hadn't met at any point last season. And he's like the new face and head of the DOD because General Lane's moved on. And as you would expect from a US military perspective, the North Korean submarine save and that whole thing that went on isn't the best. It hasn't gone over very well with the government, and you can tell from that scene that Superman and his loyalty and allegiance to America is going to be a central theme of that storyline, because Superman's for the world. He's not just for America. He's based in America, but he's not just he's not a military tool, which is obviously what I guess or Lieutenant Anderson is sort of hinting towards. So I'm very curious to see where that goes and how political it can potentially get. But yeah, I don't know exactly where that's going to go and what the ultimate end for it is, but I don't know if it's going to go down ultimately well for both sides. One side's definitely going to fall short in that confrontation. But speaking of confrontations, I'm killing it with the segues today. Lois uses the ELT in order to get Clark back to the farm after finding Jonathan in bed with Candace, about to do some, all of that, with an argument erupting out of this, with Clark having perfect points, but you can just see Lois is on edge just from everything that's going on and just struggling as a whole from everything that's happening. You feel bad for Lois, but also Clark's just a punching bag in that situation. And but Clark knows that, but he's just not going to fall free as well. I think he has to have some resistance to maybe try and get through to Lois, but he could have gone much harder, but I think he understands the situation of everything that's going on. So yeah, you felt bad for Clark there because he was just turning into a bit of a punching bag, but you feel bad for Lois as well because you can just see she is struggling so much. Now, we did have Sarah coming back from camp, and Jordan has this reunion date with her after her time at camp. And we can also, like the main reason I mention this is a bit of a non-scene, but we can see he has gotten better and more controlled with his powers over these 3 months. Being able to light those candles precisely with his heat vision, which ended up being a waste of time because they just move on from there pretty quickly. But I am curious to see how he progresses this season, because it seems like he's got a good grip on everything that's going on. But yeah, obviously, I don't think this was the episode to really dive too much into that. That's for, probably a few episodes down the track. Now, Lana and Kyle, obviously, they're having a bad time. Like the Cushing family as a whole at the end of last season, they were punching bags for all of Smallville last season. But we have Lana and Kyle helping and hosting the campaign for Daniel Hart's run for mayor of Smallville. Not exactly sure where that is going to lead into this season, or whether it actually leads anywhere purposeful at all. But you can see that Kyle is frustrated at once again sort of falling by the side, as Lana's focus is on helping Daniel because she's working for him. And though there are more positive things later in the episode between these two, I am just wondering where this storyline can potentially go, and if it's got any main stuff, or if it was just more of a Lana and Kyle sort of thing for this episode, and other stuff will happen not relating to this. But that's a wait and find out. We don't really know at this point, because it didn't have a major focus. But one of the best scenes in this episode in regards to an acting sense was definitely when Lois finally opens up to Clark about her experiences over the past 3 months. And Bitsy Tulloch, who plays Lois, just killed this scene once again, which isn't a new thing for her, but man, she's just so good. But here, Lois opens up about how she felt really nothing for the arrival of Natalie, and just the constant discussion just opened up these old wounds and made her feel almost like the villain in this situation. But this moment between Clark and Lois is interrupted by a massive earthquake, which all of Smallville is impacted by. And as we see in the mines, there are two powered people who are punching through the walls, which make you think, maybe that was the cause of the earthquake, but that's not what it was. But they have jackets emblazoned with Superman's crest, and they actually do save a worker. And obviously Superman's not going to be too impressed with them, using his symbol, if you want to call it. But we do hear that they are working for the DOD, for Lieutenant Mitch Anderson. And we learn through Mitch Anderson that they are actually students from the school from last season for those powered people. The one that Tag Harris was associated with. Now, of course, this brings up the question, were they given powers via the X-Kryptonite, or are they powered through other means? I'm going to assume X-Kryptonite. But let's see how this all plays out. I'm sure it's going to end well. Surely no problems will come out of this. None at all. Like, nothing bad's going to happen because of this. Nah, nothing at all. But we do get to see Lois finally talk and open up to Natalie, despite some objection from Natalie at first. But just Lois apologizing for what's happened in the past and in the present, and just holding out a hand of friendship to Natalie. It's not trying to, it's not a hand of pittiness and, you're a charity case and everything like that. It's a genuine holding out of a hand for potential friendship to Natalie, with this being a good way for both of them to heal. I think if both of them ignored this situation even more, but potentially came across each other, it would just be the worst situation. It'd become toxic. It'd become like a personification of Twitter. Like, Jesus Christ, you wouldn't want that. So I was really happy that this scene happened in this episode, rather than, allowing it to just like fester for like 3 or 4 episodes, and then just being dramatic for the sake of it. I'm happy it happened in this episode, and it didn't have to be something too massive. It felt real almost, which I was really happy about. But speaking about real, Clark's romantic talk with the boys, with the twins, about what's been going on and how to deal with what. Bit too close to home. I don't know if everyone else has had weird talks like that with not just your dad, but just any sort of superior or older person you don't really want to have that talk with. But yeah, Superman's got to be a dad as well. He's got to address it. But Lois does bring John and Natalie back to the farm for a better and less theatrical introduction. So they're all going to be on the farm, which is what I was saying before, where I think Natalie's most likely just going to go to Smallville High now, not go to that place in Metropolis. But obviously with them being closer together, that just can provide some potential drama. And I do wonder if there's going to be anything between Natalie and Clark, because he's the doppelganger of the man who killed her mother. So I do wonder if there's anything there, or maybe the head pains could lead to a moment where Natalie thinks he's going to break bad and go evil. I wonder if that's going to play into it. I think that might, but that's a wait and find out. But to end off the episode, the cliffhanger and the hook for at least the early parts of this season is Clark hears a noise. He hears a rumble. And I thought we were going to leave it. I thought they were just going to leave it at that noise, because the episode was running out of time. I was like, well, do they have enough time to really show anything? But they do. And we zoom off and we zoom into the mines. This noise that Clark hears, this smashing, and what's been causing these earthquakes is coming from beneath the mines. And we see an arm punch out, but it's gloved. It looks like it's got like a glove or sort of like a brace on it. Something weird. It's pretty dark. You can't 100% tell. But it looks like you can sort of see like some spikes or something on the back of his arm, or at least like protrusions on something. And it makes me wonder, are they sort of doing a design on this character, at least at the start in this first episode, based off the first appearance in the comics of Doomsday? If so, wow. Like, if you look at this picture here, even the punching and everything like that, it makes you wonder, maybe they're going for like just an updated take on that costume and that look. Because if so, I did not expect Doomsday to be on the show. Now, I don't know. It makes me think it's Doomsday, but where did Doomsday come from? Has he been there for ages? Why? I'm very curious. I mean, the X-Kryptonite was there, so maybe that leads into it potentially. That's why the X-Kryptonite was in that specific region, but I don't know. I'm curious now. Do you think it's Doomsday, or do you think it's someone like Earthquake or someone completely different? You gotta let me know. But overall, I thought this was a really solid first episode for the season. Kicked it off well, dealt with a lot of the fallout from the end of last season, which I think needed to be done, while also planting in some of the themes and just issues that are going to be presented to our characters in at least the early parts of this season. Because I'm not too sure how they're going to structure this season, whether like, you know, what's been going on leads right to the end, or maybe it's like you split the season in half. I'm not too sure. That's a wait and find out, but I think they did a really good job in this, and I think it was well done by everyone involved. So I definitely cannot wait to see what happens next. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it, show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about everything I went over in this video. Do you think it's Doomsday? Just overall thoughts on the episode. What would you give it out of 10? Everything like that. And of course, if you're going to, well, if you're new to the channel, might I say, you can subscribe to the channel. Want to do that? Let's go. And I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.